Hello and welcome to Unews. I'm Carolina Sarassa. Happy Friday, feliz viernes, and thank you for being with us today. And we begin today in Puerto Rico, where the island is still celebrating a major victory. After almost 2 weeks of intense demonstrations, the governor, Ricardo Rosselló, resigned. The question now is what happens next for the political future of the island. Lorraine Casares has more details.
She said she was ready to assume the governance, but with exactly 1 more week in office, Rosselló has time to negotiate the appointment of a Secretary of State who would be the second in command and thus the person that has to stay in power when he's gone. Carolina, it's going to be an interesting week because they really have just hours to make this decision.
And Lorraine, when are they expected to formally announce a new governor for Puerto Rico?
It can happen any minute. It can happen between Monday and Thursday, which would be the ideal time because he is due to leave office Friday at 5. So it can happen any moment. We know the party's meeting and they have some candidates in hand, but it's important for the party to choose someone who doesn't have any record of any scandal related to corruption, which is the problem with, the Secretary of Justice.
Well, thank you, Lorraine, for that report. We're going to have to wait and see what happens on August 2nd. Thank you so much. And the released Senate report says all 50 states were targeted by Russian interference ahead of the past elections. Democrats quickly making a call for aggressive legislation to protect America's elections. As the Linares reports, that legislation was blocked by Republican leader Mitch McConnell.
Even if Congress were immediately to send funds to states to replace voting equipment, it would be difficult to make substantial upgrades in time for the 2020 elections. And that's because it can take several months to decide on replacement machines, develop security protocols, train workers, and later go ahead and test that same equipment. Caro, now back to you.
Thank you, Andrea, for that report. And now the House Oversight Committee and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez met face-to-face this morning. This comes after weeks of public friction between the two high-profile Democrats. Pedro Rojas is in Washington, D.C. with more details. Pedro. For that report from Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, at least 96 Democrats are now calling for the impeachment of President Trump. But House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is cautious about pulling the trigger. Instead, she's working to push ahead with the Democratic legislative agenda. And coming up, we have more details on the... And welcome back to Unews. Financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein is now under suicide watch after he was found injured on the floor of his jail cell. As Blanca Rosa Ritias reports, new details are now emerging about that incident. When Epstein was revived, he told authorities he could not remember what had happened. Another inmate told investigators he did not know either because he had headphones on. That prisoner is a former police officer accused of murder. His lawyer says he actually does know what happened, but he says his client had nothing to do with it, and his client is not going to talk about it. And we continue with more information. An immigrant father has been granted a legal loss for the White House. A judge has blocked the Trump administration's new asylum rule, one that limits the amount of migrants who can apply for asylum here in the U.S. Luis Mejid has more details. U.S. Customs and Border Protection is investigating allegations of physical abuse of a girl traveling to the U.S. requires a trip on La Bestia or the Beast, a dangerous train ride through Mexico. But now many migrants are taking the trip back south on that same train. Sofia Menendez explains. In California, a group of Marines are under arrest. They are accused of illegal activities, including human trafficking and drug-related offenses. Dulce Castellanos reports.
Were taken aside to be interrogated on their alleged involvement with drug offenses. However, they were unrelated to today's arrests. Middleton, Dulce Castellanos, Unews.
And coming up, a manhunt intensive. And welcome back to Unews on this Friday. A manhunt continues for the two teens accused of going on a killing spree across Canada. Now, new reports of possible sightings and a message from one of the suspect's fathers comes in. Rafael Rodriguez has the latest. In California, after a day-long manhunt, Los Angeles police have arrested a man accused in a deadly shooting spree. That suspect is accused of killing his family members and an ex-girlfriend and injuring others. Salvador Duran has more details. Washington, D.C. Metro Police shared a video of an attack as they search for the suspect. Another dramatic rescue, this one in Long Island, New York. An elderly woman there is recovering after being rescued from a cesspool. The woman was stuck for hours until a family member came to the rescue. Eileen Cardet has more. And coming up, the struggle to live. Mexican authorities say the Israeli mafia is behind the shooting in a lot. In Venezuela, the economic crisis is not only impacting the poor, the middle class is also being affected by hyperinflation that has made many families go hungry. One young man even opened a GoFundMe account to collect money to eat. Andres Echavarria reports. And Honduras is on alert after a major outbreak of dengue fever. It is being called the country's worst epidemic in half a century. As Joanna Usma explains, thousands have been infected and hospitals are over capacity. And coming up, if you are parks, what if Halloween? It is finally Friday, and today many stories are trending on social media. And Miriam Arias has all the highlights. Miriam, happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. Now, let's start with Beyonce. So she is sharing a bit limited. Yes, right? It's pretty limited, but I want to talk to you a little bit about what motivated, this diet that she decided to start. She opens up about how she felt after giving birth to twins, and she said, and I quote here, I was a woman that felt like my body was not mine. So because of that feeling, she decided to work alongside her trainer and friend, which is Marco Borges, and he is also an exercise physiologist. So they worked on this together, and the plan, answering your question, includes curry avocado, sweet potatoes, and chunky apple oatmeal, among a few other things there. Pretty good. Now, of course, everybody watching, it's important to always check with an expert before you start a health plan, I think.
Everybody is different, and good for her.
Definitely. Now, speaking of strong females, Gato, I want to talk to you about another one. She's a role model for many. It's the soccer star Megan Rapinoe, and she has
since winning the World Cup. So many things.
So many things. She's still playing, of course, but apparently she's also writing a book for kids ages 8 to 12. So there's going to be a little bit of something for everybody to read. Now, this is going to be about social justice and advocacy. Unfortunately, we don't know any of the plans on the release date for this one yet.
That's pretty busy. And now, Miriam, switching gears, let's talk about zombie movies and those horror movies that I love.
Well, me too, even though they got me a little scared. But so the trailer for this movie was just released, and it's a sequel to the film Zombieland. Go. Now, Caro, the movie is set to premiere on October, and this leads me to another topic that I want to share. First off, for everybody watching, should Halloween be celebrated on October 31st or on a Saturday? Well, there's a new petition.
I actually never thought about it. We always have Halloween on the 31st. It's a big tradition. But moving it to a weekend, it sounds pretty good, especially because we have so many parents who are working. And if you talk about safety, then I vote for that. Miriam, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we're going to have to see people say on our social media page. We'll see you guys on Monday. Thank you so much for watching.